Daniel Sports Center, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the Week 7 matchup between the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Purdue Boilermakers. Huge match for both these teams coming up here in Week 7. You got Nebraska, who's 3-3 on the season. They're coming off of 2 straight conference wins, and they're looking to get a third against a team that is likely the best team in the Big Ten West right now, and that is Purdue. The Boilermakers coming off of 3 straight wins. They're 4-2 on the season, and in a division where the Big Ten West is wide open right now, this is a crucial game for both these teams moving forward. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this match here today, starting out with your team trends. Nebraska beat Rutgers on the road 14-13 last Friday night, which was a very close game, and Rutgers led that game 13-0 for a while before Nebraska rallied and got the win in the end by 1. And so, good win for Nebraska. They're 3-3 on the season, and this is a team that's obviously had quite a wild first 6 games. They fired Scott Frost, and they've got Mickey Joseph as their interim head coach right now, and it looks like he's doing a good job with this team considering they just won a close game, and they've won 2 straight heading into this matchup. And Purdue on the other side, they beat Maryland on the road 31-29 last week, so a good win there for Purdue going up against a Maryland team that's pretty good this season. And once again, they're 4-2 on the year. They're 2-1 in conference right now. Both teams are 2-1 and tied for the lead in the Big Ten West right now. Games will be on Saturday, October 15th in West Lafayette. So the Purdue Boilermakers are the home team for this one. And your kickoff is 7:30 p.m. Eastern, so a nighttime kickoff. Spread's going Purdue here by 14. So Purdue is favored by a significant margin here. Over-under is 56.5. And your FPI is going Purdue 85.1%. So according to odds, Purdue is a heavy favorite in this matchup, which, I mean, it makes some sense seeing Purdue at least as a favorite considering the Boilermakers have overall just been the better team, and this is Purdue who last season was still a really good team. So I mean, it makes sense, but I mean 14 points is, I'd say, pretty generous towards Purdue here. Your over under is 56.5, so a moderate scoring game more than likely can be expected for this matchup. Series history, it's tied at 5 right now. Purdue won last year's matchup, and they've won 3 out of the past 5 against Nebraska. Stat comparison for this one: Nebraska 70th in points per game, 88th in points allowed. So this is a Nebraska team that, I mean, they're decent on offense. They've shown potential on offense, but the main problem for this team this season has been on the defensive side of the ball. They've allowed a lot of points to some opponents that they definitely should not be, and we'll get into that in a second. But they're 37th in pass yards a game, so Casey Thompson has led Nebraska to, he's thrown for 1,500 passing yards. So he's off to a good start this season and 9 touchdowns, has thrown 6 interceptions. So the turnovers definitely need to be prevented if Nebraska wants to be a contender in the Big Ten West, which is, I mean, once again, the Big Ten West is as wide open as it's ever been. So this is, I mean, anyone can win that division right now. 37th in pass yards a game, 72nd in rush yards a game, and of course they've got one key running back, that is Anthony Grant, who's really coming around so far this season with over 600 yards of rushing and 5 touchdowns on the season. And for yards allowed, 113th in passing, 103rd in rushing, so not good in yardage allowed for the Cornhuskers so far this season. As for Purdue, 62nd in points per game, 58th in points allowed. They're 17th in pass yards a game, and then 111th in rush yards a game. So a heavy passing offense here in Purdue like it's been for the past couple of years. Aiden O'Connell, who is a very talented passer, 1,500 yards on the season, 10 touchdowns, has thrown 4 picks, but not a bad start to the season for him. And they've also got a talented receiving core. Yards allowed, they're 84th in passing, 20th in rushing. So a pretty strong rush defense here in Purdue, allowing an average of 97 rush yards a game so far this season. So keep an eye on that. In the passing defense, not terrible. 84th in the nation there, and that's the main way that Nebraska attacks on offense. There's something to keep in mind. Your recent matchups: Nebraska beat Rutgers 14-13, beat Indiana 35-21. So 2 straight conference wins. Nebraska's, they're off to a decent start in conference play here, being 2-1, considering how rough of a non-conference slate this team had. They lost to Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, 14-49. That's the week after they fired Scott Frost. And, I mean, in retrospect, looking at Oklahoma now, who is 3-3, that was, just a brutal blowout loss there. But they also lost to Georgia Southern, 42-45. Allowed 45 points to Georgia Southern. It was a team that had no business getting that many points against Nebraska. But Nebraska beat North Dakota the week before, 38-17. That was back in week 2. And if you look back to week 1, Of course, they have that brutal loss to Northwestern, who turns out to be probably the worst team in the Big Ten right now, as they're 1-5. Purdue, they beat Maryland 31-29, beat Minnesota, ranked team at the time there on the road 20-10, beat Florida Atlantic 28-26, lost to Syracuse 29-32. Turns out Syracuse is a pretty good team, but they beat Indiana State the week before 56-0. If you look back to week 1 for Purdue, they lost to Penn State at home. Nittany Lions are currently ranked in the top 10. So they've lost 2 games, one of them on the road at Syracuse, and of course the other one being at home against Penn State. Your key points for this one: Nebraska 3-3. They started out the season 1-3, and quite honestly though, when this team lost to Oklahoma, they were 1-3 and no Scott Frost, and this team with an interim head coach. I mean, honestly, Nebraska, it looked like this team was going to be completely lost for the rest of the season. But I mean, 2 straight wins in conference. Obviously, it's to teams that aren't very good in Indiana and Rutgers, but that's a good start to the conference slate here for Nebraska. And considering the schedule's only going to get tougher, I think this is a huge opportunity for Nebraska to get in the winning column again, get up to 4-3. I mean, this is a chance for Nebraska to, potentially place themselves as a contender, believe it or not, in the Big Ten West. Mickey Joseph is improving this team, I really do believe, based on the past couple of weeks and how this team has come around. And with a win, once again, this team is in contention to win the West, something that we couldn't have imagined saying, say, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. But Nebraska being in a division that, they're leading the division right now. Your leaders in the Big Ten West are Illinois, Purdue, and Nebraska right now, tied for first at 2-1. It's, once again, a wide open division right now. And as for Purdue, potentially the best team in the Big Ten West, you could argue that. I'd say it's either Purdue or Minnesota right now, even though Illinois and Wisconsin and Iowa have really disappointed so far this season. But, Purdue, this team is, they got a strong passing game. Aiden O'Connell, who is an outstanding passer, that's what he's known for, and they show strength on both sides of the ball. On defense, they've been good at many points this season, and on offense, for the most part, they've been pretty good as well. So, Purdue, a pretty balanced team on both sides of the ball, and definitely talent all around. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Nebraska and Purdue coming up here in week 7 of action. And I'm going to go with Purdue here. 31-23 is my predicted final score. This is a game where I do think, the spread is 14 points towards Purdue. So, the spread is almost saying like that this game could be a blowout. But I think Nebraska keeps it close. I do think Purdue wins this game, and I'm fairly comfortable saying that. I think Purdue is simply the better team right now. And Aiden O'Connell, especially without, Nebraska, despite winning at Rutgers last week, it was a sloppy game. Nebraska didn't look that good for a long time, and a couple of mistakes off of Rutgers, they got the win. So if Nebraska has improved over the past week and they have a strong performance, they can win this game. But I think Purdue being at home, they're a much better team than Rutgers is, quite honestly. And so I think the Boilermakers get the win here 31-23, even though I do think Nebraska covers the spread, which is 14 points towards Purdue. If it changes to 13, maybe I would consider taking Purdue to win by a couple of touchdowns, but I do think at 14 right now, I'm pretty comfortable taking Nebraska to cover at least. Over-under is 56.5. I'll take the under for this one. I do think we see more of a defensive game here, and Nebraska to cover the spread in the end once again. So this is obviously a huge opportunity for Nebraska to get on the right track, potentially be a contender. But then again, Purdue is simply a team that is, they're in the driver's seat to potentially make it to Indianapolis for the Big Ten title game later on this season. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.